good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hot Takes, Goodman and Haertl on a Thursday. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Tonight, have a fundraising event for Project Self-Sufficiency. It's up in Loveland. Alex is going to be working an event with me tonight. So all of the kind words you have had to me in the past about, I do a nice thing and I do a good job. You've never been to one of my events. Now you've got a mole in the room and Alex, and he's going to probably tell you the truth tomorrow.
Well, I'll reserve all of my kind remarks for Alex's contribution. I know you'll be at your best. So congratulations and good luck on your event tonight.
Thank you very much. With that, want to tell you about Roller Auction on Wednesday, April 2nd. There's a City of Aurora impounded vehicles auction featuring trucks, cars, SUVs, 4x4s, trailers, and more. Bidding is started at rollerauction.com. And don't forget to go to rollerauction.com to learn about upcoming auctions. Get what you want at the price you want today at Roller Auction. With that, time now for the lead.
The lead is presented by Smokin' Dave's Barbecue. It is not just the best barbecue in town, it's one of the best restaurants in town. You can find Smokin' Dave's Barbecue in Denver, Lyons, Longmont, Estes Park, and Greeley.
I think it is fair to say there are probably 10, 20 different betting sites out there, and it is my goal to talk about all of them when they have their over. The first one out of the gate is ESPN Bet. They're over under this season for the Broncos, 9.5 wins, despite winning 10 games last season. So does ESPN Bet have it right?
Well, last year, you and I both agreed that the 5.5 was an easy bet, would have been an easy bet. They were an easy over by 4.5 games, it turns out. Not so sure that I'm quite as confident this year, but only Buffalo, Kansas City, the Chargers, Cincinnati are the only teams that are picked to have more wins or expected to have more wins on the over-under. So I think it signals pretty good things for the Broncos, who I think that we all feel are ascending at this point. Would I take the over or the under at this point right now? You know what? Let me see how the schedule stacks up, where they're going, what the flow of the schedule is, where they're traveling, et cetera, and then I'll get back to you. But that seems like a reasonable number to me, and I would be probably confident somewhat on the over at this point.
I think one reason why it is 9.5 and not 10 is because their schedule is tougher. But they also drew a short straw with their third place schedule. So what do I mean by that? We know that they're going to get all the teams in their own division. They do catch a huge break playing the AFC South, which is not a good division. But then again, everybody in the AFC West gets the AFC South. They also get the NFC East with the Eagles and Washington. It doesn't matter where those games are played. Both of those teams obviously are very good teams. Now, this is what I mean by they drew the short straw for the third place record. They get the third place team in the NFC North. If you had to bet on it right now, which team will be better? The Packers, who finished in third place last year, or the Vikings, who finished in second place? The Vikings are going to be starting a rookie quarterback, and the Packers still have Jordan Love. Then you look at the AFC Central. Who do you feel better about in terms of winning for the Broncos and winning a game? Would it be against the Steelers, who finished in second place last year, or the Bengals? I think that's one reason why it's 9.5.
Yeah, I think that you're probably right. You laid that out pretty nicely. I think I'd probably rather play the Vikings than the Packers. I don't think it's but only for the reasons that you talked about. The fact that J.J. McCarthy more than likely will be the starting quarterback. And I probably, for the same reason, would go with the Steelers over the Bengals. The Bengals had a weird year last year. They seem to be everyone's darlings this year. They've got the receiving core taken care of. Obviously, they've got the quarterback taken care of, and the Steelers don't. So I guess from that standpoint, those would be the two teams that I would rather play. Although you know how this is, Eric. This is the NFL, and everybody can be good, bad, or indifferent on any kind of Sunday.
We have talked about the law of averages more than a few times, dating back to the time that we did radio when it comes to injuries. I said going into this past season, man, law of averages usually catches up. The Broncos were relatively healthy a couple of years ago. I mean, how in the world is that going to happen again? Well, guess what? It did happen again. Bo Lowry does a fantastic job. Broncos offensive line pretty much intact all last year. Bo Nix played the entire season. Now, granted, he did play with a couple of fractures in his back.
Mm-hmm.
So you're really wondering, in some ways, should he even have been out there? I know just because you can play doesn't necessarily mean you should be playing. And I'm not accusing the Broncos of anything, although I am accusing all 32 NFL teams of something. Generally speaking, there are ways to get guys on the field. It's called Toradol, in case you haven't heard of it. Usually that's for skeletal stuff. What the Broncos have been very good at is soft tissue injuries. So I will go into this season thinking the same thing I thought going into last season. Will the law of averages continue to be in favor of the Broncos?
It's a fair question. And if you're hedging your bets, you're, I guess, counting on Bo Lowry to, whatever the elixir is, or whatever the pattern is, to continue it. And if you're feeling strongly enough about it, and obviously the Broncos are, because they, in free agency, spent a lot of money on three guys who collectively have missed 33 games in the last 2 years. We're talking about three guys that missed a bunch of games last year. And you're betting on yourself, essentially, and Bo Lowry and his people to do the job necessary to keep these guys on the field. So on one hand, you've got this demonstrated ability, I'll use Sean's term, of the medical staff's ability to keep these guys on the field. But on the other hand, and you're right, Eric, law of averages generally tend to work out in things like the NFL. Everybody has injuries. The question is the injury rate. But I don't blame the Broncos for betting on themselves. I think that they feel like they've got a good plan, and all you can do is look at the last 2 years, draw data from it, and recognize that fewer than 30 games were missed by players over the last 2 years. That is a remarkable statistic, and it's no surprise that it's led the NFL.
I would not bet on injuries ever,
right,
under any circumstances.
Right.
Somebody blows the knee, somebody tears a labrum. I think that's a very dangerous road to go down, where, yes, you might be able to keep guys healthy when they're injured, but in a violent contact sport like football, you're bringing in three guys who have an injury history last year. The question is, how does Sean Payton look at the draft? Does he really love a guy who missed 8 games last season in college, and now he feels, well, we'll keep him healthy, we'll keep this guy healthy? If that's how you're building your team based on we can keep these guys healthy, I think you're eventually going to get really burned.
Well, I think the key is where the Broncos are right now is building their quality depth in the draft. I do think they'll hedge bets. I think that they will continue to bring in players in a similar position groups than in the free agents that they brought in. It would be foolish not to. You have I'm not going to say the luxury, but you are in a position coming off a 10-win season. And yes, with very few injuries, but now you have the core of that football team back. It is a team that mentally is in a different place of expectations because they've had the success that they're coming off of. It should put them in a much better place to start from, a foundation, if you will. But the importance now in building the team further from a 10-win football team is with quality depth. So that if one of those guys goes down, or a starter in any position, that you can move a guy in quickly and not expect too much of a drop off. The Broncos have been playing for years now where, okay, their frontline people can be fairly competitive, but what happens when one of them goes down? Well, the ship starts to sink. Hopefully, they are in a position now where they can build quality depth with young players, bring them along very much like they did last year. I think you and I would agree they had a really nice return rate from the young players on their roster. If they can continue to do that, and that's a big if, we all understand that. If they can continue to do that, this is the way that they will move forward with quality depth on their foundation.
Do you think there's a player in the draft that they can get that moves the needle from 9.5 to 10?
No, not in the draft. I don't think so. I mean, I think if you come away, well, Genti's not going to be available. That's an unrealistic expectation. Yes, the answer to your question on the surface is yes, but I don't think where they are or where they could be that's probably reasonable. And I think running back is probably the only position where that would really, for me, move the meter. Do you have a 3-down back that can tote the load running the football, that is good in pass protection or better than good in pass protection and can catch the ball out of the backfield? That's a lot to ask for, especially coming out of college. But I think there are a couple of guys in this draft that fit the bill. You've already talked about Genty. There are a few others. And this is a deep draft in the running back room. I think the Broncos will come away with a very good running back that they can plug and play right away. Whether he's going to win games for them remains to be seen. There's a lot to ask for from rookies, but they're in a good position.
Omarion Hampton's a 3-down back.
He is, no question.
He is.
Yeah.
Catch the ball in the backfield, has plenty of speed. I did find something to be incredibly interesting. And listen, when you scout a player, it depends on what lens you see it through. Mm-hmm. But here is a scouting report for you, okay? Strengths of this running back: runs square and drives through tacklers with good contact balance. Number 2 strength: willful ability to get must-have yards with force. Requires gang tackling. Capable option on swing passes. Here are the weaknesses: slow vision to diagnose lane development. Bangs into blockers and lacks adequate elusiveness. Below average speed to win wide and turn the corner. Does that sound like anybody that we have covered recently?
Yeah, minus pass protection, it's Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams was a better pass protector coming right in. And ironically, Omarion Hampton and Javonte Williams are guys from the same program. They're cut from the same cloth at the University of North Carolina. So it's intriguing and interesting and ironic that they have virtually the same draft report and prospectus coming out. So we'll see. I think Hampton checks 2 of the 3 key boxes. The one thing that I keep reading is questions in pass protection. I hope he's willing. He better be willing, because you've got to protect in this offense, period. You have to be able to protect. But you're right. He fits all the questions, most of them, for a 3-down back.
Omarion Hampton and Javonte Williams look like two different running backs.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch both of them, I just don't understand how that scouting report looks like it's for the same guy.
Yeah,
And that's what I mean by it.
Yeah.
Suppose it's the lens that you're looking through. Because some of those things might be true about Omarion Hampton. I'm not debating that they are not. And they are certainly true for Javonte Williams. But watching this kid play at North Carolina, he doesn't look much like Javonte Williams at all.
No.
So I'm thinking, who did this scouting report?
Well, yeah. And the key is, what does the scouting report look like at Dove Valley? That's we're seeing scouting reports that are coming out for general observation and use and across the board in the National Football League. What does the scouting report look like on Sean Payton's desk, on George Payton's desk? What does it look like? How much have they invested? They've already had one of the two kids in from Ohio State. They're going to have more in. They're taking a deep dive into this, and they will have the information that they need. And Eric, I think you got to bet on what Payton and Payton come away with, because they've done a pretty good job in the draft. I don't think anyone would argue that. And they've done better than a pretty good job. They've done a good job, a solid job. And if they have another year like they had last year, and really even that George Payton has had for a couple of years previous to that, then you're going to feel pretty good about where they come away with the draft, with more picks that they've had and higher picks than they've had in quite some time.
I don't mind betting on your ability to draft, although mistakes can be made.
Sure.
But going back to the top of this conversation, I don't like betting on somebody else's injuries. I just don't. And that's what they're doing going into another year, specifically what they did in free agency. It's great that you can get these guys on the field, but then again, you are doing things medically to numb all of that pain. And I don't think I need to go any further than that on what that means. And I'll probably get in trouble for saying this. I might get a call from the Broncos. Some of those injuries on the injury report, the Broncos take a lot of pride with Sean Payton on limiting soft tissue injuries. There have been some guys in the locker room who have been listed with a non-soft tissue injury, and they've been asked, oh, well, what's going on? And the player just shakes his head, and they're like, I'm not injured with that.
No.
I'm not injured with that.
No, you're not going to get that information. Right.
What's that?
You're not going to get that information from them, but specifics anyway. But no, I hear where you're coming from. But in terms, if you just get to the baseline of this conversation, it is how many guys have missed games for the Denver Broncos over the last 2 years. And there is a sub argument of how are they doing it and what are they doing it with. But the statistic here that's key is guys that are available to them on Sundays. And then how are those guys able to perform?
Bruce,
and the answer has been pretty good.
Bruce, you can get a lot of guys on the field. It doesn't mean it's good for their long-term health. You can get a lot of guys on the field. Toradol shots do that, along with other things. If they go through another season, and it's great that they're doing it, that they've had 2 seasons relatively clean. If they go 3 straight seasons like this, either Sean Payton and Bo Lowry have done something that no team probably has been able to do in a 3-year stretch in NFL history, or something's going on. Something's going on here.
Oh, you cynic, you.
How do you like that hot take?
It's hot. I don't have any empirical proof that that's the case. I mean,
doesn't it make you scratch your head a little bit? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but for 3 consecutive seasons, how are guys getting on the field to play? It's nearly it. I'm not going to compare it to Cal Ripken's Iron Man streak, but it's pretty head scratching that you can have that many games in which there are few games missed by players.
I would argue the other side and say that they have a fairly good understanding, a very strong understanding of preemptive treatments and things that they're doing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we know about the violence of the league and the violence each and every week in this game. We know the tolls that it takes on players. We know how difficult it is to keep players healthy. But
Here,
I don't have knowledge of things that might be going on that I don't know if you're alleging it or if you're just throwing it out there.
Let me finish. Okay, I'm not saying the Broncos are doing illegal things. I just find it odd that if this happens again this year, they're relatively healthy in terms of guys playing on the field, that they have made NFL history in spades and have lapped the back 3 consecutive years. What I can tell you is this, because you were here for Nathaniel Hackett as well. One thing the training staff and Nathaniel Hackett never did together was be on the same page with managing injuries with practices. That's one thing that Sean Payton and Bo Lowry do very well together. Yes. That is a major feather in their cap. But when it comes to game day, all I'm saying is, has a team ever had this type of streak going in the most violent game that you can play? It's been 2 years in a row. Again, practice schedule, managing injuries, that's one thing. Getting guys on the field on Sunday. You've heard all the stories before. I'm not accusing the Broncos of this because this happens all the time in the NFL. There's a line around the hallway to get your Toradol shot.
Well,
it happens all the time.
Okay.
All the time.
I'm not where you are on this. So I will just say, for me, someone has to be the leading edge of good medicine in the National Football League. Someone has to be at the leading edge of understanding soft tissue injuries. Someone has to be on the leading edge of getting guys back on the field in a proper way, in a way that's good for the team, yes, but good for the player as well. Why can't that be the Denver Broncos and Bo Lowry?
I'm not suggesting it can be. 3 straight years in a violent sport, if it becomes 3 straight, what they have done already is probably historic. 2 straight years. 2 straight years.
I think they're very proud of it, and they probably should be. So that's kind of where I'm at on that deal. But you know how it is. It's always a roll of the dice. This game is, I mean, you could be running down the field on kickoff coverage and boom, and your knee goes. And whatever you've done to try to do preventative things can't stop it. Quirky things happen in the NFL.
Bruce, I'm not accusing the Broncos of doing anything nefarious. What I'm saying is, wow, you have done something that is historic. And now you're potentially going into a 3rd year to add on to that. And, oh, by the way, you've brought in 3 free agents who were all injured last year. And if they all stay healthy, I mean, you don't just give them a standing ovation. I mean, you build a statue for them. Well, this would be unprecedented. And maybe they have figured it out. Okay. I know in one way they have, in terms of marrying the practice schedule to injuries, managing soft tissue injuries. Guys are hurt. Okay. And when you take Toradol or whatever it is, you're not healthy. You just numb the pain, which quite frankly allows you to injure that injury even more. With that, let's move on. Coming up after the break, the Nuggets beat Milwaukee last night. No Giannis, no Dame Lillard. Nuggets should not have to apologize at all for those guys missing games. and pretty much picking up an easy W. But do you wish they would have played this close to the playoffs to get maybe a better sense of how good the Nuggets are heading into the playoffs? That's next. Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. And don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corn bake. Man, you got to try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hot takes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a Ford Bronco Raptor or nearly $30,000 in cash the weekend of May 23rd. Get finalist entries from 10 a.m. until midnight during their daily cash drawings every 45 minutes or by redeeming player points. And all daily cash drawings that don't get picked are eligible for a second chance drawing on Wednesdays, and that can turn into extra cash. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch in the DTC. Both locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook is a hangout bar or great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, the DTC, and coming soon to Parker. They are the sports bar. And welcome back. Hot Takes. Goodman and Haertl just talked about the Broncos. Now let's move it over to the Nuggets. They played last night and won. Nikola Jokic back in the fold. Another ho-hum triple-double for him. Milwaukee is a playoff team in the East. No Giannis, no Dame. I'm on an island here, and that's totally fine with me. I wish those guys would have played. I know the Nuggets need to win games.
Well, I would, yeah.
Be higher in the seedings. Yeah. I get all that stuff. But honestly, I don't want to see a watered-down Milwaukee team. I really want to get a better feel for the Nuggets going into the playoffs.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's like the last 5 games for opponents of the Nuggets who haven't seen Nikola Jokic. So, he was back last night in a big way.
Bruce, how have they done? How did Washington do? How did Portland do? They won. Yeah,
but they also won at Golden State and they won at Houston in virtually the same trip. The Nuggets are confounding. Nothing should surprise you from the Nuggets. They can beat anybody but Minnesota. I think probably at this particular point. They haven't beaten Boston. Let's take the East out of it because we're just dealing with the West. Oklahoma City's over 60 wins right now and are in the midst of a 7-game win streak. So the Nuggets are just trying to fend people off and get a decent seed. What looks decent to me right now is the 3-hole. But the Lakers won last night on a last-second shot. You still have Minnesota, Golden State down there trying to vie for that 6th position. I don't think you want to play Minnesota in the first round. They're like a half. You don't. I mean, right now Minnesota's in a play-in situation, but they're only like a half game back of 6th place. That's a very real possibility because it looks like it's going to be a 3-6 matchup, unless it's a 4-5 matchup. So actually the first matchup right now would be the Clippers, but it could be, but the Clippers, Golden State, and Minnesota are all right there, basically a game away from one another. So the Nuggets just got to get their house in order. The faults that they have in their house are evident. They don't have a deep bench right now. Last night it was a 7-man rotation. They've got a couple of things going on that are interesting to me, but they just are not going to have a lot of depth going into the postseason. So Peyton Watson is playing pretty well right now. I think that's one thing that you can feel fairly good about. But other than that, what else?
Okay, I'll ask you this. Just give me a quick, rapid-fire answer. You
Okay.
just said the Nuggets can beat anyone in this league. Did I hear you correctly?
On a given night, and they have. They've even beaten Oklahoma City. They just haven't beaten Minnesota. So,
well, then let me continue. Now, so you're going to probably refer to the Celtics, the Cavs, maybe Minnesota, and Oklahoma City, right? They can beat those teams on any given night. Is that fair to say? Okay.
Yeah, but not in a 7-game series.
Bingo, and that's the point. It doesn't matter if you can win on any given night.
Yeah.
It's a 7-game series.
Right.
That's what matters. It's a 7-game series. And with the way they play defensively, they could have a couple of off nights, which for them is a lot of nights, which is a lot of off nights. Michael Porter Jr. snapped out of his funk, probably best game in 2.5 weeks, 24 points, 6 of 8 on 3-point shooting, which is good for him, but it makes you even take a closer look at what he's been doing the past 2.5 weeks. Forget about him being the 3rd best offensive option on the team. He's the 5th right now. And I'm going to take this even a step further. Everybody who has ever met Michael Porter Jr. really likes him as a person. Even his harshest critics, and I know more than a few, genuinely like him as a person. But if for some reason Nuggets get bounced in the first round, they might have to make some moves. And I got to tell you something, Michael Porter Jr.'s trade value is plummeting.
I would say that, yes. I mean, I would say that Michael Porter Jr. has gotten to a point of development that is not, whereas we thought that he was developing as a player and saw positive signs over the last 2 years, I think it's fair to say that he has not progressed at the same rate this year as he has in the last 2 years. He is not a dependable, consistent number 3 scorer. He is a streak shooter that has far too many bad streaks for me to count on him night in and night out. Now, when he gets going, I mean, he can have nights like last night, but how often does that happen? It all gets back to what you can trust. And that's my biggest problem with where the Nuggets are right now. What can you really trust from the Nuggets? Can you trust their 3-point defense? The answer is no. Even last night, team shot nearly 50% from 3-point range against them. They don't close out. They don't defend the 3-point line with any sort of veracity. They can shoot the ball. They're one of the highest percentage shooting teams in the league. They're not a great 3-point shooting team. They don't depend on the 3-point shot as much as other teams in the league. So you can count on Nikola Jokic being very good every night, but can you count on Jamal Murray to be – now he's had a very good season by a lot of measures, but can you count on Jamal Murray to be the Robin for Batman every single night? I don't think you can.
Jamal Murray's been very good this month, and Michael Porter Jr. has not been very good this month. I think Aaron Gordon is 3rd in scoring.
He's been good
in March. And then Christian Brown, he's 4th in scoring. This is why it's so difficult for me to criticize Michael Porter Jr. And again, I know other people who are inside the organization who aren't huge Michael Porter Jr. fans, but they have a very difficult time criticizing him for the same reasons I do. Number one of the nicest kids you will ever meet in your life. But more importantly, in number 2, how this guy's even playing in the NBA is unbelievable. From his back to his drop foot. He is a medical miracle being out there on the floor. So anything that you get from him, the Nuggets should just be thrilled. But fans out there don't understand the severity of what this guy is truly going through. I'm no doctor, so I'll let you look it up if you want to. And I'm talking about the people watching out there or listening out there. Look up what a drop foot is, and he will have that for the rest of his life. And then throw in a really, really bad back. One reason why he doesn't drive to the hole is because he doesn't have a quick first step. Why? He's playing with a drop foot. You know how hard it is to get off a jump shot when you are really only lifting off of one leg? Really, really, you go try it, is my point. And this guy's playing in the NBA, right? So we can sit. I think the reason why people get frustrated, including myself, and probably you too, Bruce, our frustration with Michael Porter Jr. isn't the contract that he signed. It's the contract that he was offered. And I think that's what gets people bent out of shape. A, they don't understand his injury situation, which is severe. And it's not his fault Tim Connelly out the door tried to help build his Minnesota team by, I don't know, giving Michael Porter Jr. a long-term contract. And I say that jokingly.
Wow.
Because clearly Minnesota was not involved. Clearly Minnesota was not involved with Tim Connelly. But that is the gift that keeps on giving. We were watching Minnesota kind of have its way with the Nuggets, kind of have its way with the Nuggets, in theory, third best scoring option. And Tim Connelly helped himself, unwittingly helped himself.
Michael Porter Jr. has been a medical miracle. Maybe he's seeing Bo Lowry. I don't know. But anyway,
maybe
you're talking about
Bo Lowry.
Well, I mean, you're talking about a guy that's basically been available for about 3 straight years now, despite everything that you just touched upon. And from the outside looking in, I have great respect for that. I really do, because I get it. I mean, I get it. When you're dealing with a bad back and a disc issue, and that where your back is in constant pain or it's catching and your foot, all of these things make his perseverance that much more admirable. But he is being paid a pretty significant wage for the expectation of being a guy for this Denver Nuggets team. I would argue that from a consistency standpoint, the Nuggets have not gotten their value from the contract that Michael Porter Jr. has. And while I have great admiration for his ability to show up and to be present, because we talk about it all the time, the best ability is availability, he has not developed into the type of go-to player that you need to have and that you've got to be able to depend on. Not as much in the regular season, especially for a team as offensively adept as the Nuggets are, but for a guy that can light it up in the postseason when you need guys to hit shots consistently. So that's kind of, to me, the twain doesn't meet there because it's still a performance-based industry.
I'm not going to make excuses for MPJ, and I don't think he'd want to make excuses. But I'm going to, I think it's important to share what this guy is truly going through. And by the way, the only person who's played more games than him this season is Christian Brown.
Right.
And it's only by 1 more game. Porter Jr. has played more games than Jokic, and he's played more games than Jamal Murray. That is going to do it for us. Hot Takes with Goodman and Haertl. For Bruce and Alex, I'm Eric. Talk to you tomorrow.